I was doing one of our episodes one time, and I said a word that is incomprehensible, and she just agreed. It was like, all right, alrighty then. Okay.
Maybe I understood what you were saying. We had our own language.
Yeah, the meaning of a podcast is so people can understand what we're saying. I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
No, it's I understand you, and then, yeah.
And welcome to Cause of Crime. Cause of Crime is back.
Yeah.
I almost went into like a Slim Shady thing where I'm like, guess who's back? And I was like, no one wants to hear that. Honestly.
Back again.
You guys you really don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear us sing or rap or whatever we're trying to do here. The Cause of Crime is back. Feels good. Yeah.
It does.
I don't think we've spoken too much on it. I know I posted the announcement, but Cause of Crime will be having 2 episodes a month. We're going to get through our entire catalog because we have so many episodes for you guys. 2 episodes a month, Cause of Crime, sometimes 3, just depending on how busy we get, how much time we have to record, because busy ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're doing Aberrant as well. Chris, do you want to talk about Aberrant a little bit?
Oh, yeah. So Aberrant is going to be where our spooky episodes will be. I'm super excited for those.
Listen, we wanted to do it in a way that made sense because it doesn't really make sense to have a spooky episode on a podcast called Cause of Crime. And the more that I thought about it, I was like, Cause of Crime is just kind of like chilling over there. And I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to start a true crime podcast. We already had one started. I think that what I wanted to do was do something spooky too. So I was like, if we separate them, we can do both. And yes. Chris was like, hell yeah.
Yes. I got all kinds of brainstorming for Aberrant, and I'm so excited.
Oh, she's going to do phenomenal. I just want to take a moment here and just say that when Chris applies herself to do like research for cases, she does absolutely phenomenal. And you guys are going to... Yeah. And, I'm not... fluffing her feathers or anything. Or I don't know what the fuck.
Oh, they're fluffed.
They're fluffed. I'm not fluffing her feathers or anything, but she really does a great job. Like, when we first started this, I was like, hey, you should write a case because I want you to cover a case. And she's actually doing that case today, guys. She's going to cover... What are you covering, Chris? What case is it?
Jennifer Kessie.
Yeah, so she's covering the disappearance of Jennifer Kessie. And she did a phenomenal job on the research. Like, I barely glanced over it, and I'm like, girl did her research. There's like 10 pages. What the hell?
There's 15. 15?
Shit. Yeah, so...
I mean, that includes pictures, too. But, we're going to just say 15.
So, when she actually sits down and writes these scripts and goes over the information, she, like, dives in. Kind of like me, so like I'm so excited for not only the future of Cause of Crime at this point, because with Chris doing more episodes, it's because let's be honest, like you guys like the alternating stuff. You like when something switches up a little bit. But when we're gonna have Chris doing her episodes, I'm really excited because like I get to take a step back and listen to her and how she tells them. Because she does such a good job, and you guys are gonna hear that on her episode. So not to freak you out or anything, Chris, but you have high expectations to me.
Love that for me.
She's nervous, guys. She's so nervous.
I don't like speaking.
It's you're talking to me, though. You're talking to me. Even though other people can hear you. You don't know that. You're just talking to me right now.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's just nervous.
I understand. I remember when we recorded our first episode, I was like,
that's going to be me.
No, like legit. Like I listened to the first episode we ever covered. Oh my God. See, I'm already doing it. Covered. And I was like, oh God. And it's like the progression from when you first start podcasting to now. And that's why I'm so glad we're redoing all these episodes and like remastering them, because we have so much more to say. And hopefully we don't get on too many tangents, because that's how we are. But
well, you know me. When I start, I start.
There was a part where you guys aren't going to hear it now because the episode's taken down, because we want to redo it because so much information has came out about the Delphi case since then. However, she got so worked up, Chris. I remember you getting so worked up about them not getting cell phone records immediately that I thought you were going to come through your microphone. I was like, girl.
Oh, I'll tear into somebody.
I was like, girl, I literally had to say, Chris, we have to stop. So were you just going off for like 5 minutes about it?
Oh yeah.
That just gives you a little piece into Krista's passion for not only true crime and learning these stories, but also for getting justice for these families. So she gets very passionate, she gets very into it, like we both do. Because there's gonna be points where I'm like, when I do research sometimes, Chris, you should see my face. I'm like, and I'm listening to a podcast or something, I'm like, and I'll even say out loud, I'm like, no fucking way. No fucking way. You're kidding. Like, I say that too, out loud. And it's usually when I'm listening to my favorite podcast, aka Morbid. Morbid's my favorite. I love the girls. They're my absolute favorite. And like they'll be telling a case, and I'll be doing something like in the meantime, but there's gonna be parts where I react. I'm like, there's no fucking way. And like I know that there's a way, but I'm like, shit. Yeah, there's still things that shock me, no matter how much research I do in this, because humanity is fucking scary.
Oh, it is.
Don't fucking trust anybody. That's our message today.
Yeah, don't trust people.
Do you know what my first case is?
What your first case is?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Krista doesn't listen to me because I already told her about this. Whatever.
Listen, I'm so nervous about my case. I just can't focus.
She's gonna do fine. You're gonna be fine. It's gonna be great. Like, I'm gonna go through my two, and then once we get to yours, you're gonna just fly right through it, and you're not even gonna stumble, and you're like, wow, why was I nervous? This is awesome.
I'm gonna fly right through it. I really will. I'll read so fast you won't even have a chance to answer or respond.
That's not how it works. Like, I'm gonna need you. You can't like read at the speed of light. Okay.
It's like giving a speech in front of people. I do the same thing. I read so fast and no one ever hears anything I say.
You know, for people that hate public speaking, we are wonderful at podcasting, right? No, like, why did we choose this life?
I don't know.
It's weird. Life is weird, man. But hey, that is your pre-show banter from Trace and Chris. If you are new here, we always kind of banter with each other. We've been friends for what, Chris? I don't even know how long.
Oh God.
It feels like forever. Being Chris's friend feels like forever, honestly.
It does. Jeez, when was it?
I don't know. But you can expect this kind of a little banter, and if you don't want to hear it, you can just skip over it until we get to the case. And if you don't like it, we really don't care. Anyway, that's just how we are. So, you don't like it, you don't have to listen. Back to Cause of Crime. We're recovering, going through our catalog, redoing everything. So we're going to have 3 episodes this month. Technically, the first one comes out on the 31st, which is this episode. So it's July, but we're still counting it for August just because it's basically August anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 3 cases that are being covered, first one I'm doing right now is the murder of Tammy Palmer. Second case is the murder of Amy Mihalovic. And third case Krista's doing. And Krista, what's that case?
The disappearance of Jennifer Kessie.
I love how she hasn't even started her case yet, and she's stumbling. She's like, I can't. And honestly,
Listen.
I'm so bad. I do the same thing. I combine words, so it's so weird. But you guys don't have to hear that because we have the magical power of editing.
Yes.
But so I'm going to probably just go ahead and get into my case because we have a lot of things to cover for you guys. And the sooner that I start, the sooner Krista can get through her case and kick her nerves.
Yep.
Her prejitters.
Yep.
So, last thing I want to mention is, Aberrant. Look out for Aberrant. If you're not following Aberrant, you definitely should, because that's going to be our spooky podcast. If you're into anything spooky, haunted houses, actual hauntings, all that good stuff, you're going to want to check that out.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Why'd you say that in a spooky tone?
Because it's spooky.
You see what I deal with. Okay, so serious face. From this point on, we're going to talk about something horrific, gruesome, and just reprehensible.
Mm.
And it's the murder of Tammy Palmer. Now, before I go into this, I do want to say that they know who's responsible for this. However, he still has not been caught. And I'm going to have his picture in our show notes, along with the tip lines you can reach out to if you have any information. He could still be on the run. And I'll go into more detail about that because it's conflicted. Some people say he's deceased. Some people say he's on the run. I know where I stand on it. You're going to know where you stand. If you have any information, you think you've seen him, you're not sure, you didn't know, you don't know. Call. It doesn't hurt. Because Tammy deserves justice. Her children deserve that justice. And this came from somebody that was supposed to be a family member. I'm gonna go ahead and hop in. I do want to give a trigger warning that there is talk of domestic violence in this case that Tammy did suffer. So if that is a trigger for you, you may want to skip over this case. Just because there is a lot of talk about that, not only in the beginning of the case, but later when it talks about custody of the children. Tammy Palmer was born April 6, 1973 in Pascack Valley, New Jersey to John and Violet Panarello. She attended North Rockland High School. Tammy was 16 years old when she met John Palmer, and he was 17. They married in the 1990s. So throughout this case, I'll reference the bad John and the good John, and you're going to be able to figure out which one is which pretty easily. So 2 Johns in this case. First is Tammy's husband. Second is Tammy's father, John Panarello. A little side note here that isn't really important to the case, but I found is that Tammy married John after Tammy's older sister Denise married Clarence Palmer, which is John's brother. However, another part that isn't technically important, but I read, is that after Denise had Clarence's child, he left her. I think the baby was like 6 months old or such. Don't quote me specifically on that, how old the baby was, but that definitely did happen.
Wow.
Tammy and John had 2 children, Rosemary and John Jr. The couple lived with their 2 children on John's father's, Eugene's property in Stony Point, New York, about 40 miles from New York City off of Willow Grove Road. So Willow Grove Road is split between the 2 towns of Haverstraw and Stony Point. The north end of this road heads towards Harriman State Park, and the south end is where the Palmers lived, and that's near Haverstraw. Eugene did not live with John and Tammy, but they lived in very close proximity to each other in separate houses. So basically very, very close next door neighbors. And the property was directly near Harriman State Park. And that's important because of what happens later.
Okay.
Once Tammy and John had their children, they started to have marital issues. After their daughter was born, John started to go out and drink, which created a problem almost immediately because instead of taking care of your kid, you're going out and drinking. You know, there's nothing wrong with having a drink or two, right? But when you stay out for days and don't come home, it's a big deal, especially when you have a child.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a red flag.
Oh, yeah. So do you know who the bad John is? Is it coming clear who the bad
Yeah.
John is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Tammy was the only one being a real parent and stepping up to the plate. Tammy and John had several problems, and she kicked him out when he started to mentally and verbally abuse her, along with his numerous alleged affairs, the drinking, and the drug use. So red flags all the way around.
Oh, yeah.
And just to give you a piece of the abuse, John would write letters to Tammy calling her insulting names for her to find and read. And this is the mother of his children. One, how could you treat her like that? And two, how could you write something like that for your children to possibly pick up and read one day?
Jeez.
Even if you don't care for her, how could you do that?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
I think it's good it doesn't make sense to us because we are not red flags and we wouldn't treat our significant others that way.
Mm-hmm.
But the couple decided to give it another shot when they found out she was pregnant with their son, John Jr. After John Jr. was born, the abuse soon turned physical. Between 2009 and 2012, police were called to the Palmers 4 different times for domestic disputes.
Wow.
In 2012, it was discovered that John was seeing another woman. So he had a lot of affairs, is my understanding, but this woman is kind of the one that hit the nail, on the coffin.
Oh, yeah.
So Tammy was like, fuck this, I'm out, do what you want to do, I deserve better. And basically this was just the last straw.
Yeah.
And these situations are so hard to leave. I just want to take a moment and just say, like, we know these situations are so hard to actually leave. Because there's never been a time where I've been physically abused. I personally have been mentally abused before. But that took a lot of strength to get over. I cannot even imagine the strength it takes when you're being mentally and physically abused to leave your abuser when you have children.
Mm.
So the women that do this, you have so much strength, and we are so proud of you.
Mm.
Around August of 2012, John came home smelling of perfume, and he was drunk. Like I said, this was the final straw. This was the final big fight. A woman previously called Tammy and bragged about their alleged affair. So that's kind of what, she knew that he was sleeping with other people. But to have a woman call and say, hey, your husband's again cheating with me. So Tammy told John, quote, if you want to go live with this young lady, go do it, but leave me and my children alone. So after this big fight, John was arrested and briefly held by police. Now, I will say, I think it's worth mentioning because I tried to give all the information. But in a couple of sources, it did state that they were both seeing other people. But I also watched the In Pursuit episode with John Walsh, and it was not mentioned that she was seeing anybody. So I highly doubt that she was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the source I'm going to go with as being factual. I did want to mention that there was some conflicting information, but I'm really going to go with she wasn't seeing anybody. Because why would she care if he was cheating if she was seeing someone else,
Yeah.
Why would she be upset? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But, so I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with that source being the most factual information. And it's the most logical as well. So John and Tammy separated, and she got a restraining order against John in August of 2012, citing the prior domestic abuse incidents. She accused John of domestic violence while John accused her of domestic violence. You can hear my eye roll, by the way. Not saying that women can't do that, but in this situation, obviously wasn't happening.
Yeah, that's... Yeah. Gosh.
John was removed from the home and wasn't allowed near the residence because of the restraining order that Tammy was granted. Tammy pretty much just wanted a divorce. She wanted to move on. She wanted to raise her children and be happy again. The separation started issues between Eugene, which, remember, is John's father. They lived on his property, and Tammy. Eugene was pissed his son John was banned from his land because, remember, like I said, lived on his lands, and they were very close with each other. So they lived basically on top of each other, like side-by-side houses. I will actually find a picture and put it in these show notes so you can see how close in proximity it was, because it's different to like hear it and then actually see it. Eugene Palmer had a way of thinking that he probably gave to John as well, that women should be cooking and cleaning and that a woman should know her place and the man was superior and could do no wrong. I can't.
I just had the biggest eye roll.
Continuous eye rolls. Like, know her place? Are you fucking kidding me? No. And this is in 2012.
Yeah.
2012.
God. I just don't understand people that have that mentality. Like,
people still think that way.
They do.
There's so many people in 2024, as we're recording this, that still have that mentality.
Yep. Yeah.
Woman belongs in the kitchen. No, she doesn't.
Nope.
And it's literally in everything, like your employment. It's in your day-to-day life, your social life. It's in everything. There's so many people out there that still think that way, and it impacts you every single day.
Yep.
So I'm not trying to get on my soapbox here, but for women, it's hard.
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is.
So to Eugene, Tammy needed to learn her place. When Tammy threatened to file for divorce and sue for the land that was owned by Eugene, this caused tension and heated arguments. Eugene didn't think it was right. John was not allowed on his property, and that was his son. Because remember, Eugene's like, oh, this is my property. You're a woman. You need to bow down. Blah, 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 blah. Shut the fuck up. Sorry, shut the... If you think that way, just shut up.
Just shut up.
Just shut up. No one wants to hear you. No one cares what you think. You're wrong. Shut the fuck up. Thanks.
Oh my god. I would say the same thing.
I can't imagine someone saying something like that to me. I would literally just be like, you sound ignorant. Shut up. Anyways, Eugene allegedly shut off the electricity to her home at one point, and she would wake up Eugene on purpose using her car horn. So they were, doing little petty things back and forth. I'm not saying that anyone's completely innocent in this, but no one deserves to die.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing. Think about it. You're shutting off electricity. That's a little bit more deep than someone just blowing a horn waking you up. You know what I mean? Because you're not only impacting Tammy at that point, your grandchildren are there. Don't you care that they have electricity? He didn't give a single damn.
Nope. He didn't care.
Eugene would also spy on Tammy in her home with binoculars to see who was there. Think about like a guy just creeping and watching you.
That's creepy. Like, that's really creepy.
So, Eugene came up with a plan. Of course he did.
Mm-hmm.
In every way, and I do state this, in every single way, he planned Tammy's murder, and this was a premeditated crime. And I did my research. I not only looked online and got all my sources that are in the show notes, I went through newspapers. At the time, I went through like 20 newspaper articles because there's some things. Yeah, there's some things in newspapers. I love newspapers.com, by the way, not sponsored, but it's amazing because you can just look up keywords and it pulls all these articles. Right? And it's just, it's so good. But a lot of this information I got from those articles. And I'm not saying like all of it, but a good bit of it, because it really cleared up the relationship between the children, between Tammy and John, and basically between Eugene and Tammy. The more that I read on this, the more I could see it was premeditated. And I think you guys will be able to see that too. On September 20th of 2012, Eugene allegedly confronted Tammy outside her home with a handgun and tried to hit her in the face.
Jeez.
Later, John said, I don't think so. My father doesn't own a handgun. Of course John did.
Of course. Like, John, what else do you expect?
Yeah, all he does is drink. He's probably drunk when he said it. It's like, yeah, I don't think he does. But, like, I can't remember what happened yesterday, so maybe? I don't think I know. We're not John fans here.
No, definitely not.
We're not bad John fans here. So, back to the 20th. This happened while Tammy was hanging laundry outside. Eugene approached Tammy. Eugene told police Tammy had hit him with a stick. But her story was that she had allegedly picked up a log to defend herself once it was discovered that Eugene had a gun. A witness heard Eugene say, quote, "You're going to be out of here Monday one way or another," end quote. And he made sure of it. Oh, and you think that, her children were inside? No. Her children were present and saw their grandfather threaten their mother. He did this in front of his grandchildren.
Oh my God.
Could you, like that? Oh my God. Just thinking about that event just stresses me out. Just having someone wave a gun in your face, you trying to protect your children, like your children are right there watching their grandfather threaten you. Obviously, Eugene did not give a damn about anybody but himself and what he thought was right.
Clearly.
So as soon as Tammy's father found out about the incident, he wanted to confront Eugene. But Tammy said no. She told her father, stay away from him. He's very disturbed. And if that isn't the truth, I don't know what is.
Oh, yeah.
Tammy was supposed to meet with Child Protective Services on the day of her murder to discuss a restraining order and custody of her children and to make sure John could not enter her home. But she never made it to that meeting. 39-year-old Tammy Palmer walked her children to the bus stop the Monday morning of September 24th of 2012. While walking back to her house, she was killed by 3 shotgun blasts from Eugene Palmer. It's believed he was hiding in the woods. As she walked back home, Eugene allegedly shot her from a distance, striking her arm. Per a source I found and a quote from her father, John Panarello, according to a report that he received, the first shot shot her arm in half, and she was bleeding profusely.
My God.
Tammy ran to the front door of her place trying to get inside, but she couldn't get in. It was locked. She went to the side door. Again, she couldn't get in. So ultimately, she went towards the backyard, and at this point, Eugene shot another shot and missed. Unfortunately, Tammy was losing blood and collapsed in her backyard. Eugene caught up to her as she was laying on the ground and stood over her and fired a third shot.
Jesus.
The third shot was fatal and at close range of Tammy's chest. According to her autopsy report, her reported time of death is 7:40 a.m. So he hunted her like an animal. He wounded her and then followed her until she was losing a lot of blood.
Yeah.
And in the crime scene photos, you could see the blood on the handle of the door where she was trying to get into safety to call the police. But he made sure those doors were locked so she couldn't get in, right?
Yeah.
And he waited, and he shot her, and he just waited. He missed the second shot. So technically, he only hit her twice, I believe, from the sources that I found. So 3 shots, but only 2 hit. But the second was at close range. Once she fell down, he stood over her. It just gives me the chills because it's just, how could you do that to somebody?
Yeah. God.
So then the 911 call was ringing, and it said, quote, "I heard a shot, a lot of screaming, another shot, no more screaming, and another shot. I think it came from the Palmers," end quote.
Jesus.
Tammy was found by police in her backyard in a position where she was trying to protect her face.
Mm.
Eugene hunted Tammy like she was prey. The police followed the blood trail to the backyard where they found her lifeless body. Just like Eugene did when he was hunting her, they followed the blood. Originally, John was the first suspects for the police because of the domestic abuse history, along with a restraining order. But this was quickly put to rest when Eugene's sister and niece showed up at the crime scene while the officer was investigating that responded to the 911 call.
What?
So Elaine, his sister, Eugene's sister, told the officer after Tammy Palmer died, Eugene went to her home that was down the block. She states that he said, quote, I just shot that bitch 3 times. I had enough. And just give me an hour to get away before you call the police and do whatever you have to do, end quote. I will say that the sources differ. And if he said, I just shot Tammy or I just shot that bitch. However, the detective on scene states that he stated that bitch. So that's what I'm going with as being the credible source. The audacity, if he did say, I just shot that bitch 3 times, it just makes me so fucking angry.
Mm.
You murdered the mother of your grandchildren.
God.
That bitch? Are you fucking kidding me?
That's just, I don't understand. I just don't get it. How can you do something like that?
Oh, and here's another kicker. Elaine, Eugene's sister, said that Tammy had been aggravating and tormenting her brother. Here's what I say. Murder's never the fucking answer.
Yeah.
You don't kill somebody.
Yeah, no.
Ever.
You don't do that.
If you take anything away from this podcast, you never resort to hurting another person. Ever. As you guys could tell, there's been a couple points where I've pointed out like some conflicting source information. I'm going to point out another one I just like to be really transparent. So some sources say it was the niece that Eugene talked to and said this information to. However, technically, they both were at the crime scene and were giving the information to police. So regardless if the sister was at the home or if that was just the niece, the information that was given to police was from Eugene stating this information. So Eugene gave Elaine cash to pay his property taxes, left her home in slippers, and drove off in his 1995 or 1996, like I said, sources differ, Dodge Ram pickup truck. So this pickup truck was later found less than a mile away in Harriman State Park, about 100 yards into the woods. It still had its keys in the ignition, but police stated it was not in good enough shape for a long drive. Investigators believe that Eugene fled the area after the murder, so they requested FBI assistance as well as assistance from the state and federal law enforcement. Also, can we just just talk about something real quick? Who the fuck is concerned about property taxes after they murder someone in cold blood?
Yeah.
Do you think that you're coming back from that?
Oh my God.
Human life, property taxes. Come on. You're kidding, right?
That's unbelievable.
How do these criminals think? It's so bizarre to me that someone can go from, oh yeah, I need to do something mundane, make sure my property taxes are paid. Oh, but I just killed somebody.
Yeah.
What?
That's just insane to me. Like, I will never understand that. Never. Like, understand how, like, thoughts, like that's what you're thinking about? That's what you're thinking about?
You know you're going to prison if you're ever caught, right? But yeah, your property taxes are real important, bud.
God.
Jesus. The FBI tracked Eugene to the Harriman State Park woods and followed his scent to a campground in the woods. A huge manhunt happens using air and foot patrols. The bloodhound dogs lost the scent at another roadway in the park. Police believe that there may have been a vehicle waiting to pick up Eugene Palmer and that he escaped the area. either a car he had waiting that he drove, or it was an accomplice that drove him somewhere. His bank accounts were frozen, and police noticed he took a shotgun and a rifle from his residence. So, armed, definitely dangerous. Eugene Palmer is wanted for allegedly shooting and killing his daughter-in-law, Tammy Palmer, on September 24, 2012 in Stony Point, New York. After a local arrest warrant was issued for Palmer in Rockland County, and he was charged with murder, a federal arrest warrant was issued on June 10th of 2013 by the United States Court for the Southern District of New York after Palmer was charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. He was also on the 10 most wanted FBI list starting in 2019, but was removed in July of 2022. Which is a huge deal because the FBI most wanted list has a 93% success rate.
Mm-hmm.
However, Eugene Palmer was not found.
God.
So one theory to where Eugene Palmer is that he's somewhere in those woods and that he's passed away. His property backed up into the Harriman State Park, which is more than 47,000 acres. If you think about that, that's actually insane. Because think about 1 acre of land, 47,000.
That's a lot to search. 47,000? Holy.
That is a lot to search.
Oh my God.
So with this park being so close to his home and his property, he often visited this park and knew his way around, according to the people around him. And like I said, the park is huge. It's New York's second largest state park with 31 lakes and reservoirs. The park is also where his truck was found and where the bloodhounds lost his scent. But they lost the scent on a roadway that a car could have been waiting. If Eugene was still alive, he would be 85 years old today. Eugene had heart disease, dementia, diabetes, and breathing issues. So his family believes he is likely not alive and probably passed away somewhere in the woods. He was a very experienced hunter and outdoorsman, so him running to live in the woods isn't a crazy notion to them because he grew up in those woods.
Mm-hmm.
He was on medication for his heart and diabetes issues, so likely he would not have made it long without those medications if he truly went to the woods and stayed there. The family thinks that Eugene Palmer would rather hurt himself in the woods than submit to authorities and pay for his crime. Clarence Palmer, Eugene's oldest son, who I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, and his friend Kevin Rose think he went to a secret cave he found a few years before Tammy's murder. Harriman State Park is filled with caves, root cellars, and abandoned mine shafts. Clarence claims that law enforcement botched the hunt for Eugene when he was first on a run, and that they were afraid of going in the woods for Eugene. This is your fault.
How is it my fault? What did I do?
I don't know. You did something. It's all Krista's fault. I just had to edit a huge portion of this that I messed up on because she's over there sending her freaky vibes over here. Elaine also thinks that police failed in their search and investigation for her brother. Or, hear me out, they have way more information than the public does in their investigation. Right? Because police generally have more information than the public, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a PSA there. Clarence claims that no one would hide Eugene and does not believe that his father had an accomplice. A hiker did smell a foul odor in the park about 3 weeks after Eugene was on the run, so cadaver dogs were called in for a search. A body in the woods was discovered, however, officials state that it is not Eugene Palmer. There were many searches done with bloodhounds, cadaver dogs, ground searches, and air searches, but none of them produced Eugene or any clue that he was still in those woods. Another theory about Eugene is that he's living in Florida or upstate New York, where he has family, and he may be hiding under an alias. There have been leads followed up on in reference to this, however, he has still not been found. In 2019, FBI agent William Sweeney stated that he believes Eugene Palmer is still alive because of his general sense of his personality and capabilities. The police believe if he was in those woods, he would have been found by the searches that they did. The family of Eugene is quite harsh about him being found, but in my opinion, the police can't make him appear if he's not there. They searched for weeks and did many different searches, and honestly, they're only going to use so many resources to search the same park unless something new happens that warrants another search. I mean, they're thinking at this point, we should have more clues. We should have more information. You know, his scent stopped at that roadway. So common sense tells you, where did Eugene go when he was picked up from that roadway?
Yeah, it's like he had a car there waiting, like, because he planned this day out. He planned it.
Exactly. It was
So,
premeditated. So why wouldn't he have something waiting?
exactly. So he most likely already had something waiting there with everything in there that he's gonna need to survive, and
Hmm.
drove off once he got to it.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And that's what I think. And everyone has a different opinion about this case.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if Eugene Palmer is dead in those woods, I think he needs to be found.
Mhm.
It gives the family of Tammy some kind of closure.
Yep.
However, I would love for him to be prosecuted for what he did to Tammy.
Same.
In 2021, the FBI raided a Warwick home after receiving a tip that Eugene was inside his granddaughter's home. The home was searched, but Eugene Palmer, again, was not found. And I do want to point out here is, sometimes we can be very critical of law enforcement. There's not always great law enforcement. Sometimes there's good guys, sometimes there's bad guys. Sometimes they mess up, sometimes they don't. However, I do think it's significant that they believe he is still alive.
Yeah.
That does paint a clear picture that they have more information than we do.
Mhm.
So if they're thinking that, they likely think that for a reason.
Yep, exactly.
So Eugene Palmer was featured on The Hunt with John Walsh, and it produced new leads in 2016. However, the public does not know what those leads were, but it seems like these leads point to Eugene still being alive, which goes along with what Agent William Sweeney said in 2019, that he believes he's still alive.
Mhm.
Of course, that was years ago, but however, it's still the same thinking. Violet Panarello, Tammy's mother, made this statement, quote, "He was a woodsman. He was a big hunter, so anything is possible," end quote. So this is what she told the Journal News. She said, quote, "I don't know. I wish he's alive so I can see him in jail. I want justice for my daughter," end quote. And then she said in another statement, "I have bad days every day. No mother should lose a child like she died."
Yeah.
Which is true.
It's very true.
Unfortunately, Tammy's mother, Violet, passed away before Eugene could be captured.
Mm.
So sad.
Yeah.
But regardless of your faith, I choose to believe that they're together. Tammy and Violet are together right now.
Yeah.
In 2014, the grandchildren of Eugene Palmer, Rosemary and John Jr., were awarded more than $1 million each from his estate. New York Supreme Court Judge Gerald Lohr awarded $2.150 million, the estimated value of Palmer's property and bank accounts.
Wow.
So the judge ruled that the children were entitled to the grandfather's assets after finding the fair preponderance of credible evidence showed that Eugene Palmer killed his daughter-in-law on September 24th, 2012 on his property off Willow Grove Road. Do you know what a fair preponderance is?
Mm-mm.
So technically it's a fair preponderance of credible evidence. I didn't know what that meant, so I looked it up. I'm just going to put it in here. Because if I hear something, I'm like, oh, what does that mean? I need to look that up. If I don't know what something means, I love knowledge. So a fair preponderance of evidence means that in a trial, the side with the stronger evidence, even if it's just a little bit stronger, should win. This is typically used in civil cases where the consequences of losing aren't as serious as criminal cases. So Violet and John Panarello fought for custody of Tammy's children after she passed. Violet was adamant that John Palmer knew that his father, Eugene Palmer, had intentions to kill her daughter. There were many people called to give statements in the custody hearing, and one of John's family members stated that Tammy got bruises. Listen to this. One of John's family members said this, by the way, in the trial for the custody. She stated that Tammy got bruises by play wrestling with her daughter rather than any physical abuse from John Palmer. And here's my thing, right? Sometimes you do wrestle around with your children, and sometimes you do play around. And, that can occur with a bruise happening once in a very, very rare circumstance.
Yeah.
However, that's not what happens, right? Like, you can't just say, oh, she has bruises all over her from wrestling with her daughter. No, she has bruises all over her because allegedly he's a piece of shit who beat her.
Yep. Jesus.
You can't. Come on. I read that in a newspaper article and I was like, you're kidding. You're actually kidding me.
That's crazy. Oh my God.
Not only this, the family of Tammy stated that there were multiple occasions where John could not feed his family. So not only was he out drunk, sleeping with other women, doing whatever he wanted, not coming home from days at a time, mentally and verbally and physically abusing his spouse, Tammy, but he also didn't provide. But on the other side, John's family said he was a great provider and always made sure the children did not go without.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it just does. The evidence just doesn't point to that.
No.
You know, like I'm not saying that you can't be rehabilitated if you're the toxic one in a relationship. Like but John, he's bad news. He's bad news. I personally believe that people like that just don't change, and that's just my personal belief. Don't come at me for it. But if you're beating and abusing somebody like that, I just don't feel like you change from that. I feel like that's something in you.
Oh yeah.
That violence always escalates too.
Yep, it does. Jesus.
So custody of the children did temporarily go to Violet and John Panarello, while John Palmer got visits with his children. And remember, at the time of Tammy's death, Rosemary was 16 and John Jr. was only 12. Eugene Palmer is still a wanted fugitive. He was 5'10", around 220 pounds at the time of his disappearance in 2012. His left thumb is deformed. He had brown eyes and graying hair. The FBI is offering a reward up to $100,000 for information leading to his capture. If he is still alive and you see him, he is believed to be armed and dangerous. So if you have any tips at all, like I said, please go look at our show notes. It has a picture of him so you can see his face. There's a link to all of our sources, the picture, where you can contact, but you should contact the FBI at 212-384-1000. Or you can contact the Haverstraw Police at 845-354-1500. Or you can submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov. And that is the murder of Tammy Palmer and how Eugene is still possibly on the run, depending on what you believe. So what do you believe, Chris?
Oh my God. He's 85 now. I'd say it's a possibility he's still on the run. I'd definitely say it's a possibility,
Even if he did pass away after, I definitely think he got out of those woods somehow.
Yeah.
I definitely think he did not die in those woods personally, just based on all the information that I have. And I kind of side with law enforcement on this. The scent just went away. The bloodhound scent went away at the roadway where he could have been picked up. Or he had a car waiting for him.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely don't think he was in the woods. I think he left. In whether it be on his own or someone picked him up and took him somewhere.
The saddest thing is that Violet died before she could get justice for her daughter.
Yeah.
Or any closure.
Yeah.
Because the way Tammy died was horrific.
Oh, yeah. It's unbelievable. It's unacceptable to do anything like that.
It's unacceptable to kill at all, but to hunt somebody like they're an animal, they're a human being.
Yeah. Well, and even just to even kill someone over that. Like, it's unacceptable to kill.
Way of thinking.
It's unacceptable to kill anybody. Like, it's just unacceptable. But, like, I don't understand, like, what was just going through his head with that. Like, and I honestly, I don't want to be in his head. I don't want to be in his head.
I don't, right?
But it's just
there comes a point. It's like you don't understand the way of thinking, but it's like we don't want to.
Yeah,
we don't want to understand that because it's like how do these lines get so gray in your head that you think that this is an okay thing to do?
Yeah, like how did you think that this is okay?
Exactly, and it goes back to in the middle of the case that like I was covering. I stated, he was more concerned about his property taxes being paid than the fact that he took his grandchildren's mother from them. He didn't care about that.
No. That's what
because
tells you
she needed
there
to
is
learn her
something
place
really.
in his head. In his head, she needed to learn her place.
Yeah. Like, you know,
And
and
that was him saying, this is what's going to happen, and I'm going to teach you your place.
yeah. That means he really, like, there is something really wrong with him.
Absolutely.
It's
And I know
insane.
that was very critical on Bad John and throughout this, but I mean, if you look at all the evidence of everything that John put Tammy through, and after the fact, what was said during the custody hearing, and I just don't think he's a good guy, and I don't think that anybody that treats their spouse like that deserves to have a spouse. Like, I think that, you need to work on whatever evil you have in you. And obviously he came from Eugene Palmer, so that kind of tells you that he did not come from anybody good. But
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, you can still choose to be a good person even if you come from a bad background.
Yeah.
There are people that do it every single day. They say, I'm going to fight this, I'm going to beat this, and I'm going to be a better person than my father was raised and my mother was raised. I'm going to be better. I'm going to break the cycle.
Yep.
But John didn't do that. John did not break the cycle.
No.
Now, he has not killed anybody that we know of, or, been accused of anything like that. However, like beating somebody, causing abuse to somebody that you're with, it's right up there.
Yeah.
It's very close, because that kind of behavior usually escalates. And it did in this case, because remember, it went from verbal, mental, to him abusing her.
Yep.
Now you have to sit through another case, and then you have to go through
No.
yours. How you feeling?
I don't know. I don't know how I'm feeling. God.
I just heard her dog Duke shake his collar in the background. Did he just do a shake?
Yeah, he's hungry. I'm sure, but he's staring at me
Oh,
with
hangry
his
poppers.
tail.
She has the cutest dog. Oh my
Yeah.
God, he's the cutest thing.
He's my little baby. Right?
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap up this episode. Like I said, if you have any information, please just, even if you don't think you have any information, go check out the show notes just to look at his picture. It'll have everything out there that you want to see. Just take a second out of your day. It could make a difference. If you have any information, just call. Definitely do not approach the psycho if you see him.
Yeah, do not do that.
Do not do that. The world needs you.
Yes.
End of story.
Yes.
So this was the first episode with Cause of Crime being back. Feels good, right?
Oh, it does.
Feels great. Check us out on our socials. What are our socials, Chris?
Cause of Crime Pod.
And that is Twitter and Instagram. And we'll be back shortly with another episode. So just make sure you're following along. We'll post that. You can also, check our YouTube. We're going to start posting on there as well. We'll have that in the show notes too. We appreciate you listening.